Hello, my name is Mederick and this is a message from Med. Before we get started, I have a big announcement. I have increased the staff of this small operation and I wanted to give them a moment to introduce themselves. Hello, my name is Eric. I have been given the privilege to read from the sacred scrolls we now call the Bible.
Hello, my name is Med. I will give an explanation of the passages read.
As in the previous videos, I will then give a conclusion saying how we can apply the lessons learned in this chapter to our everyday lives. You can find the timestamps for each section, the introduction, the chapter read through, and the conclusion in the description if you want to skip to a specific part. Last week, I discussed the third chapter of Samuel. In this chapter, we learned that it is important to develop a personal relationship with God. And when we do, we must show those coming after us how to have that encounter with God. Eli, though he failed showing his sons how to serve God properly, was given an opportunity to redeem himself with Samuel. Samuel was ever obedient, whether it was by helping to clean up the tabernacle, assisting Eli, or relaying God's messages. This helped him develop a good reputation throughout the nation. We all have a calling and we should not run away from that duty, but face it head on. In today's lesson, Israel faces the Philistines in battle. So I would like to give some background information about the Philistines. The Philistines were immigrants from the island of Crete. These people not only came in great numbers when the Israelites entered the promised land from Egypt, they brought with them Greek military equipment. Samuel approximately lived between the years 1100 and 1000 BC, the time period that corresponds with the early Greek Iron Age. Will God defend them, or will the sins of Eli result in disaster for Israel? And the word of Samuel came to all Israel. Now Israel went out to battle against the Philistines. They encamped at Ebenezer, and the Philistines encamped at Aphek. The Philistines drew up in line against Israel, and when the battle spread, Israel was defeated before the Philistines, who killed about 4,000 men on the field of battle.
The Philistines were an immigrant people from Crete. They were organized into 5 city-states, and as a result, they had Greek military equipment, which made them more formidable opponents to Israel than the other enemies that the Israelites had.
And when the people came to the camp, the elders of Israel said, "Why has the Lord defeated us today before the Philistines? Let us bring the ark of the covenant of the Lord here from Shiloh, that it may come among us and save us from the power of our enemies." So the people sent to Shiloh and brought from there the ark of the covenant of the Lord of hosts, who is enthroned on a cherubim. And the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were there in the ark of the covenant of God.
After the first defeat, the elders thought that it would be a good idea to take the Ark of the Covenant to battle. After all, it was a representation of the throne of God. It was the most holy place, and nobody could visit it except for the high priest, and he did so only once a year. Taking the ark was not unprecedented. It had happened before with Moses and Joshua, and then later on it happened again with Saul and then David. But it seemed like the elders were treating it more as a good luck charm, where they would take it without necessarily changing their ways. Moreover, Hophni and Phinehas were the ones carrying it. They were, as we learned before, they were in sin.
As soon as the ark of the covenant of the Lord came into the camp, all Israel gave a mighty shout, so that the earth resounded.
When the ark arrived to the campground where the Israeli army was, everybody was excited. They were screaming and shouting, and it seemed like all would be well. We would today categorize that as a great service because all the screaming and shouting and say, "Oh wow, God's really moving there." But it was all for naught because it wasn't grounded in God's truth. As I stated before, they didn't really change their ways. They just thought that the good luck charm would help them. Had they humbled themselves and prayed, then maybe the outcome would have been different. Or, in the words of Spurgeon, faith isn't necessarily in the loud noises. Faith is a still water, it flows deep.
And when the Philistines heard the noise of the shouting, they said, "What does this great shouting in the camp of the Hebrews mean?" And when they learned that the ark of the Lord had come to the camp, the Philistines were afraid, for they said, "A god has come into the camp." And they said, "Woe to us, for nothing like this has happened before. Woe to us! Who can deliver us from the power of these mighty gods? These are the gods who struck the Egyptians with every sort of plague in the wilderness. Take courage and be men, O Philistines, lest you become slaves to the Hebrews as they have been to you. Be men and fight."
When the Philistines heard all that noise, they were afraid. So we have to give them credit because they understood that the Ark of the Covenant represented God. And whenever the people of Israel left Egypt, God said, "I'm doing this so everybody can know who I am." And we see this here. The Philistines had heard about what God had done in Egypt. However, instead of submitting to God, they just decided that they would fight harder. So this is one thing we can learn from them. Courage and persistence wins many battles, even though it may happen for the wrong side.
So the Philistines fought, and Israel was defeated, and they fled every man to his home. And there was a great slaughter, for 30,000 foot soldiers of Israel fell. And the ark of God was captured, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, died.
So the Philistines have this battle with the Israelis, and the Philistines won. Let's look at 3 reasons why. First, the Philistines fought with courage. As I said before, instead of submitting to God, they decided that they would fight harder to get the victory. Secondly, we have the Israelis that they thought that because the ark was there, they wouldn't have to try and God would do everything, and that wasn't the case. And finally, even if they had tried, He did not bless their superstitious belief in the Ark of the Covenant. Remember, God is a person, not a genie that we just rub the lamp on and ask for Him to do or grant our wishes. Moreover, we see that Hophni and Phinehas are killed in battle.
A man of Benjamin ran from the battle and came to Shiloh the same day with his clothes torn and with dirt on his head. When he arrived, Eli was sitting on a seat by the road watching, for his heart trembled for the ark of God. And when the man came into the city and told the news, all the city cried out. When Eli heard the sound of the outcry, he said, "What is the uproar?" Then the man hurried and came and told Eli. Now Eli was 98 years old, and his eyes were set so that he could not see. And the man said to Eli, "I am he who has come from the battle. I fled from the battle today." And he said, "How did it go, my son?" He who brought the news answered and said, "Israel has fled before the Philistines, and there has also been a great defeat among the people. Your two sons also, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of God has been captured." As soon as he mentioned the ark of God, Eli fell over backward from his seat by the side of the gate, and his neck was broken, and he died, for the man was old and heavy. He had judged Israel 40 years.
So we see a servant has to run back from the battle to Shiloh. The place where he ran from was Aphek, and it was about 20 miles that he had to run, and mostly uphill, to get from there to Shiloh to deliver the news. He was, as we read, with torn clothes and dirt on his head to signify that he was in mourning. And we see that he delivers the news to Eli, who was waiting at the gate. So we see that Eli is nervous because he understood that they weren't necessarily going to get backing from God because of all the sins they had done before. And we see that it wasn't necessarily the fact that the Israelites lost or that his sons were killed that affected him, but it says as soon as he heard that the Ark of the Covenant was captured, he fell backward, and then that's when he died. And it's fair to believe that Shiloh was then destroyed. There are other passages in Psalms and Jeremiah that talk about the destruction of Shiloh.
Now his daughter-in-law, the wife of Phinehas, was pregnant, about to give birth. And when she heard the news that the ark of God was captured, and that her father-in-law, her husband, was dead, she bowed and gave birth, for her pains had come upon her. And about the time of her death, the women attending her said to her, "Do not be afraid, for you have borne a son." But she did not answer or pay attention. And she named the child Ichabod, saying, "The glory has departed from Israel," because the ark of God had been captured, and because of her father-in-law and her husband. And she said, "The glory has departed from Israel, for the ark of God has been captured."
Finally, we get this story of the wife of Phinehas. So, on this one day, she gets all these terrible news. She learns that her husband is killed, her brother in law is killed, her father in law dies, that the Israelite army suffers this terrible defeat, losing 30,000 men, and that the Ark of the Covenant has been captured. And as a result, she decides to name her child, which she gives birth to in that moment, Ichabod, which means that the glory has departed from Israel. And then on top of that, she dies. According to H.L. Edison, he says the glory of God had indeed departed, but not because of the ark had been captured. The ark had been captured because the glory had already departed. How could God allow something so terrible to happen in Israel? First of all, this was judgment for all the sins that Eli and his sons had committed and brought on the people of Israel. Second, God was trying to show the nation that it wasn't about the Ark of the Covenant. The strength of God wasn't in the Ark of the Covenant, but in Himself. Finally, God wanted to lead them back to Him. So by humbling them in this way, they would fully turn to Him and then truly serve Him as He desired.
In the previous video, we learned how Samuel responded to God's call and lived according to His purpose. We also learned that there are dire consequences for being unfaithful and turning away from God and turning other people away from God. In this case, the catastrophic defeat in battle. What we can learn from Israel's dependence on the Ark of the Covenant is that we cannot let religious items and practices take the place of God in our lives. They thought that they could win the battle simply by taking the ark. However, they did not change their ways. Moreover, Hophni and Phinehas, the corrupt priests that were turning the people away from God, were carrying the ark. Sometimes we think that memorizing a certain psalm or going to church on Easter and Christmas will appease God enough to help us win our battles. However, if we do not actively maintain our relationship with Him and give Him total ownership of our lives, we will find ourselves alone and on the run in the midst of our battles. From the Philistines, we can learn how to behave during adversity. We sometimes state that powerful verse, "I am convinced that neither death nor life, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Jesus Christ our Lord." But we forget one of the previous verses, which states that those of us who are children of God are led by His Spirit. In addition, Jesus, the Son of God, was not given anything on a silver platter. He started his ministry by spending 40 days fasting in the desert, and he would regularly spend entire nights praying to God. If we truly want to have a rich, blessed life, we will spend the necessary amount of time seeking God's will in our lives. Although the story ends on a low note, we will see that God truly works for the good of those who love Him. The story ends with a terrible massacre and the potential destruction of Shiloh. However, as we will see, God will turn this story around, dealing with the Philistines Himself. In conclusion, the title of this lesson is called Obedience Over Sacrifice. When Jesus was on earth, the Pharisees consistently complained to Jesus about how He did not honor the Sabbath, a day of rest. Jesus replied, "I desire mercy, not sacrifice." In other words, if we are continually and faithfully serving God alongside our family, we will have the confidence to come to God during our tribulations in order to reach mercy and grace through Jesus Christ. Thank you so much for watching. Do not forget to like and subscribe.